Were the Colts robbed? It certainly looks like a sure win was snatched right from their hands. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in and making us your first post-game listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you guys can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. What's up, everybody? I am Jake Arthur. He is Zach Hicks. We're going to speed through the pleasantries today because there's a lot to talk about. This, I don't know that I've seen the Colts fan base fired up over something in quite so long. But the Colts hosted the Cleveland Browns here today at Lucas Oil Stadium. The game outpaces way more than everyone's expectations. The Colts were 3.5-point underdogs. I think the betting line was or the over-under was 40.5 points coming in. The Browns win 39-38. They beat that in the first half. Very entertaining game, and it got everyone's hopes up. Coming into the final minutes, the Colts had this one. The Browns were driving. Everything looked good. The Browns were down in Colts territory, but then EJ Speed, Johnny on the spot, comes up with a sack fumble on Browns quarterback PJ Walker. DeForest Buckner picks it up. Game over, right? No. Darrell Baker Jr. is flagged for a penalty while defending Amari Cooper. It extends the drive, keeps things going. Kind of gets everyone riled up, but game is still there. Fast forward just a little bit, Baker gets flagged again, extends the Browns drive. Ultimately, they score the game-winning touchdown with just not enough time remaining. I think it was 15 seconds, and that lit a fire. Zach, I know you were incredibly fired up about this one, about some pretty egregious calls.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm not someone who really picks officiating as the end-all be-all with stuff, because we're going to talk about it here in this first segment, even how the Colts were in this situation because they turned the ball over so many times on offense, and especially at the end of the first half, how they gave the Browns 10 extra points for this game to be much tougher than what it should have been. The Colts should have won this game by 20-plus points. They were the better team. Just unfortunately, their offense turned the ball over 100 times. But when we're looking at this final game, in the macro here, those are two calls that just can't be made. I don't the illegal contact, I kind of get, whatever. It was really ticky-tack. If you're calling that, you're probably calling 30 illegal contacts per game. I mean, Juju Brents, every single snap he's on is getting illegal contact. On the other side, Martin Emerson and Greg Newsome are getting illegal contact every single play if you're calling those illegal contacts there. But I get it. He touched the receiver as he was coming out of the break, and sure, whatever. That one's one of them. But the other one, the pass interference, I mean, that is one of the worst calls I've ever seen. It really is just a horrendous call that fundamentally changed the game, because don't get me wrong, PJ Walker ended up doing, or not PJ Walker, the Browns offense did enough to win the game when they got to the 1 yard line, but it still took them 4 plays from the 1 yard line
and
to get in.
They passed it every time.
Well, they had to, because if they got stuffed on one run, it was over. So you did have to pass there. But if they're on the 8 yard line, they're not scoring. They're not throwing that ball in from there. PJ Walker was not having an accurate day whatsoever. He wasn't throwing the ball in from the 8 yard line there. So if they're at the 8 yard line, you're not calling that second pass interference. The Colts are winning this game. So the illegal contact was horrendous because that was the game ending play right there. It took away the game ending play, but they weren't scoring from the 8 with throwing the ball with PJ Walker, with the whole Colts defense sitting in the end zone. So both of those calls contributed to the easy, well, I don't want to say easy touchdown, the 1 yard touchdown run on 4th down at the end of the game. But those are just calls that can't be made. I don't want to hype on it too much, because we do have more to talk about in this first segment when it comes to why the Colts lost this game and the turnovers in particular. But those calls can't be made. They really can't be made. They are not, even in the middle of a game, they're not penalties.
Mhm.
They're just terrible calls. So, I mean, I don't want to sit here and just cry about all this stuff here, but it's like those are things that add up over the course of the season. You're 3-4 when you should be 4-3 because the refs had to insert themselves into the game on the last second when they really shouldn't have. Like, if it was egregious, if he's grabbing him by the face mask and pulling him down, or if he's ripping his jersey off, sure, I get it. But like, they just weren't they weren't penalties.
Right.
I don't understand people saying like, oh, Colts fans shouldn't complain about this or shouldn't be fired up about this because they were that awful. They were that awful. Again, we can talk about other plays in the game that led to this, but those calls were that egregiously horrendous that they were that bad for fans to be upset. Like, I think every fan is justified in the way that they're reacting to this game because fandom is like that. You get upset with fandom and you get upset with when things happen to your team, but especially in a situation like that, like there's no explanation that can come down. Even Gene Sarator, who is going to bat for his refs, like he will die for his refs.
Do.
Yeah, he will do anything for his refs. Even on the second one, he was like, okay, probably shouldn't have been called, but it's just, I don't know. I'm done complaining about it. I'll let you get your piece in here, Jake, but I wanted to lead off the show with that because it's worth talking about because it was that egregious. Like, it's not the only reason the Colts lost, but in the end of the game, it's why they lost. It's terrible.
In that situation, there's a huge spotlight put on it. And I mean, I mentioned after the game, like, you can't control what the refs do, but you can control like the turnovers and everything. I don't want that to make it seem like I thought the penalties were justified because I don't think either of them should have been called either. No. But obviously in a 1-point loss, there's a whole roadmap of stuff that led you to that loss. Right. But still, I don't think it should have happened. If I'm playing devil's advocate with the second one, especially just because that was the most backbreaking, it seemed like 2 arms extended. Maybe they decided before even the pass that it was a penalty when they saw that and gave Walker the benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
Nope. There's no devil's advocate.
You're probably right.
There's no look, you can play devil's advocate with the first one. You're not playing devil's advocate with that second one. There is no justification for that one at all. I'm sorry.
No, and I think the whole NFL world is on board with that because I don't think I've seen a single person be like, it's fine. Like, you could call it sometimes because there were other moments. There were canceling penalties earlier in the game that weren't equal. There was one where surprisingly Zaire Franklin didn't get called for a roughing or an unnecessary roughness along the sideline. But on the same play, there's a Colts defender absolutely getting mugged. He's just being wrapped up at the same time. And it's like there was just so many things. Like, if you're going to miss stuff like that, how are you going to let those late game decisions in such a spotlight where everyone's watching? How can that happen? I don't get it. But man,
but real quick though, Jake, before we get out of the segment, we did want to touch on the turnovers. The turnovers were why the Colts lost this game. The Colts offense outplayed the Browns defense, and some of the comments saying like, oh, they didn't have a chance against this defense. That's what I've been saying all week. I was flat out wrong. The Colts offense was awesome against this defense, but the Colts offense ultimately still lost this game because they turned the ball over so much. If the Colts take a kneel down up 14-7 for the rest of the game in the first half, they probably win because the only way the Browns had offense in this game was through turnovers. So Gardner Minshew on the first sack, knowing that Myles Garrett is on his back, trying to make some Carson Wentzian diving throw, which gets that ball knocked out of his hand. Just horrendous pocket awareness. You can't let that happen. The second one, it's not as egregious, but still, it's not like he's coming from your blind side. He's right in front of you. You have to know that, hey, the best defensive player in the world is bearing down on me, and I'm in my own end zone towards the end of the half. Eat that ball, get it out of your hands. Like, you can't. And then the interception too, just a horrible across his body throw. Like, these are how you lose football games. Like, again, penalties at the end, we can complain about that, and you can take us into the second segment here in a second, Jake, but you lose football games from turnovers. You can outplay your opponent all game long, but you lose from turnovers, and that's what happened in this game. It's what happened last week against the Jaguars as well.
There were other missed opportunities too. Like the DeForest Buckner one wasn't an interception. The Kenny Moore one could have gone either way. The ball was there with the ground, but like it looked like it was secured and he didn't lose any possession of it. So that one probably could have gone either way as well. So like, again, I talked about a roadmap leading here. There's the 4 turnovers. There's a couple missed opportunities. There's a freaking blocked kick because Myles Garrett is the predator and he's just not real. But there's just so many things that go into it. But here in a second, we're going to talk about the offense. We're going to get some mostly positive vibes going because there were some good things to take away from this. Because remember, the Colts lost scoring 38 points. Like, that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and talk about some positive things here in a moment. But first, a word from our partners at eBay Motors. They've teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you guys some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. And if you guys have been keeping track, some of these have been really, really nice. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to be providing you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So without further ado, let's see who Vinny has got for us this week in the eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Personally, I like Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Vinny says he's going to come off a bye and build on his momentum with an improved Zach Wilson. We'll see, knock on all the wood, to have a big game against the Giants in Week 8. Start spreading the news in this New York battle. Love that pun there. The Giants secondary cannot cover him well, and it has already given up big games to Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. Garrett Wilson is a great talent, and the Jets are now back to using him the way as a dominant number 1. Look for him to keep coming through with his best all-around game yet in fantasy in 2023. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you guys win your championships, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
All right, Jake, and while you catch your breath, I'll take over here and talk about this Colts offense. Yes, you had a long day there in the press box. I get it, Jake. But talking about this Colts offense, and we had a couple comments here. Let me throw them out here because they were rightfully calling me out. Where was it? I saw it right here. Right here, Brandon says, thought the Colts defense didn't have a chance against Colts offense didn't have a chance against the Browns defense. No, I mean, look, going into this matchup, I had no faith whatsoever in the Colts offense against the Browns defense. The Browns defense was number 1 in the NFL in yards allowed. They were number 1 in third down conversion rates, like 20% against them all year long in terms of teams converting third downs. Like, this Browns defense was playing at another level. And then when you look at the matchup on paper, like, the Browns corners love to press cover. They love to get in these receivers' faces. You got Colts outside wide receivers who are not great at separating against press and creating that opening. You have a Colts offensive line dealing with another backup offensive lineman against Myles Garrett, the best defensive player in the world right now. So I hated the matchup going in. I really was low on the Colts scoring. I was saying all week how I didn't think the Colts were going to score an offensive touchdown in this one, but they were fantastic. They were fantastic. Like, honestly, outside of the turnovers, in the couple of untimely penalties, this Colts offense played some outstanding football. Gardner Minshew, again, when he wasn't fumbling or throwing a terrible pick, Gardner Minshew had the offense moving. He was keeping the offense ahead of schedule. He was making some plays with his legs even, which was awesome. We had Gardner Minshew running like Eli Manning out there, looked like a baby deer, for the first time using his legs. It was great getting into the end zone. The 2 running backs were fantastic in this one. I love the split, and I love the way they're using both these guys, and it's due for an article this week for me on how they're using both these guys. I love it.
Ooh,
and then all week long, we're talking about, take Keon Coleman out of Florida State, take Malik Neighbors out of LSU because they need that number 1 wide receiver. All 3 of the Colts' top receivers played some fantastic football today. Josh Downs, 5 for 125 and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr. with his wide receiver 1 moment, 2 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. And Alec Pierce, everyone's favorite wide receiver. Everyone loves him to death. He's only seen positive comments from people all year long. 3 catches for 53 yards, all 3 really tough catches, doing his thing. Yeah, all first downs, doing some things when he had the ball going his way. So really, this Colts offense was outstanding, and Shane Steichen drew up a game plan that shredded the best defense in football, like absolutely shredded the best defense in football with Gardner Minshew as his quarterback. And again, Gardner Minshew is not the worst quarterback in the league, but to shred this Browns defense that had just come off shutting down the San Francisco 49ers, who had only scored 30 points a game with Brock Purdy, just completely shutting down the Niners, for the Colts offense to do what they did today. Fantastic. If they don't turn the ball over, they win by 20 to 30 points because their offense was playing that well. So again, you can't give them full credit because the turnovers did kill the game. But aside from that, aside from what you just saw, Miss Lincoln, aside from that, how was the play? The play was good. The play was good out there for the Colts offense.
Love it. Now, I mean, I don't want to make it all sound like it was all bad for Minshew. I mean, another 4 turnovers like last week, but I thought in between the turnovers, things looked so much better than they did against Jacksonville. I mean, he had another high YPA like he did last week because there was a bunch of chunk plays last week as well. But, I mean, for Shane to have the confidence to utilize Gardner's mobility as well, and he's not Anthony Richardson out there. He totally fooled Cleveland with that.
He fooled me. He fooled me.
Yeah, he fooled everyone. So he got 2 really nice rushing touchdowns out of Minshew, and credit to Minshew, like showing some nimbleness and everything too. But like the confidence to do that, like Minshew had a really solid game outside of it. Again, like you cannot discount the turnovers, but like in between everything, there were some really big moments. I thought he was a little better than last week against Jaguars. Looking at the ground game, we said coming into this one, the biggest X factor would be if they could get it going. And they did. Jonathan Taylor, 21 touches overall for 120 yards and a touchdown. Zach Moss, 19 touches for 62. I mean, they were back, 150 yards rushing again. It was the performance they needed. And again, without the turnovers, that's probably the difference between winning and losing. They probably win this one mostly because of how effective that run game was.
Look, if Minshew on both of those sacks just falls down, the Browns only scored 2 points on those sacks instead of 14. That's the difference of the game right there. But again, I want to focus on the positives with this offense. I think Shane Steichen is doing just a fantastic job. Yes, there are moments where it's like, okay, why'd you call the pass with Minshew knowing that he has the pocket presence of me back there? Why are you calling that pass on your own 6-yard line with him and Myles Garrett? Like, you have to know your quarterback is super limited and he's bound to fumble. But, it's hard to have that foresight when you're in the middle of the game thinking I'm trusting my veteran quarterback. There was the screen pass to Marley Cox that you hated, I know, right before the 60-yard field goal. There are moments. God. Yeah. There's moments with Shane Steichen where you see the rookie head coach, but there's so much to like right now. Jim Schwartz is killing everybody with that Browns defense this year. And the Browns defense came in very healthy into this game. Very healthy. They were missing one of their linebackers with a concussion, but outside of that, they came into this game super healthy. Myles Garrett, again, playing at this super high level. Their linebackers playing at a high level. Their corners playing at a high level. And Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss bludgeoned them all game long. And then you had Gardner Minshew running for touchdowns. Like, Shane Steichen, I am so sold on Shane Steichen. I am so sold on Shane Steichen going forward. He has been just fantastic for this Colts team as a play caller, as a head coach. I think one of our comments actually said it here. Just the, let me see. I had it right here. Yeah, the passion, the pain, the anger exuded by Shane Steichen, as well as the offensive game plan. I'm rolling with this guy. Rich, I am totally rolling with him too. Shane Steichen is our head coach, I think, of the long-time future. And he just did it. It was a fantastic game plan. I mean, look, like last year, is there any chance they're doing any of this against a good, like an above-average defense? And it's not like they changed too much. They went from Matt Ryan to Minshew. That's not the biggest change ever. They have the same offensive line starting as they were last season. They got Josh Downs in there, but that's still, not the big. So it's like it's mostly the same offense. But they scored 38 against the best defense in football. Like, this offense is rolling right now, even with the turnovers, even with some things to clean up. And I'm so sold on Shane Steichen. I am so sold on him. I don't know how much I'm sold on all the players around him, but they keep playing like they did today. At the end of the season, I might be sold on all the players in this offense as well.
One thing I really like, speaking of which, is I love the way that they're using Jonathan Taylor now. Like, they're ramping up his usage, of course, but like the way they're using him, he's an explosive player. Like, you can use him in a variety of ways. He's not just a classic running back. In the passing game, put him out wide, do slants, the direct snaps is nothing new. I honestly hope they kind of factor in a pass or two into that so it's not so predictable. But like he's an explosive, dynamic player. Use him that way, and they are. So, I mean, I really like that we're seeing a player with that talent level being used in a variety of ways. So,
yeah,
keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane Steichen, 100% sold, and I can't wait to get Anthony Richardson back next season with him. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about this Colts defense and how, yes, they allowed 39 points, but again, just like that week against the Jaguars last week, it's kind of a fake 39 points against the defense. We'll talk about that here all in just a second. But first, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that include spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And again, don't listen to my advice when it comes to over-unders, because I was saying pound that under all week with this game, and No, that was not the option. Do not pound that. Don't listen to me when it comes to that, but you can go to FanDuel and see some really good experts over there. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And also, guys, at Nevermore, get lost in literality and experience a place filled with intricate design and immersive experiences. From upscale food and spirits to music and entertainment, Nevermore will never be a predictable destination. There's 25,000 square footage of space, which features multiple rooms. Nevermore has an elevated pub food menu and an old world style pub in the center of the space, featuring classic handcrafted cocktails, draft beer, wine, and seltzers. There's also a secret passage to a hidden speakeasy bar, a rooftop terrace, which has an incredible view of the city, a game bar with classic billiards, duck pin, bowling, arcade games, and more. Visit Nevermore under the historic Union Station on South Meridian Street in Indy. Follow Nevermore Union Station on Instagram or nevermoreunionstation.com. Escape and explore the extraordinary at Nevermore. All right, Jake, so getting to this Colts defense, again, 39 points against an offense that was not playing particularly well. Like we saw last week against the Jaguars, where the Jaguars were not playing particularly well on offense, but the Colts still gave up 37 points or 36 points, whatever it was in that game. How do you walk away from this game with this Colts defense, though, Jake, where for the most part they shut it down, but like it still wasn't good, and like it could have been better, even though it wasn't bad. It's just when you're put so much on your back, like by the Colts offense, the way that they were with the blocked kick, with the two fumbles, with the pick. They were just on their back so much. It's hard to expect them to allow like 2 points in this game or something. But like, it's also still like there were moments in this game where you need to get a stop and they didn't get that stop. So like, what's your kind of takeaway with the Colts defense after this one?
Yeah, so this is perfect timing here from Han, because I was going to say I think the missing piece is a more consistent pass rush. They've been getting some sacks, like 2 or 3 sacks here or there, but like it's not consistent. Like there are times where they dial up pressure and they get it, or like they just finally get home or whatever, but like it's just not happening enough. And I think that's allowing offenses to extend drives. Like we've seen some guys kind of peter off a little bit from a hot start to pass rushing at the beginning of the year. And again, it's not like a total failure of pass rush whatsoever. Like I like a lot of the things guys are doing. I just think like they're a clip behind where they need to be in terms of consistency.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the difference. I think really timely chunk plays through the air is also contributing. It's stuff that like, it's just the timeliness of certain things, not getting sacks in time, these big opportunistic pass plays that keep happening. Because it is hard to put your finger on it, but I think it's just small stuff like that that's extending drives and just making offenses seem pretty successful. But again, I come away 2 weeks in a row where it's like 30 plus points, but I don't feel terrible about the defense.
Yeah, like I don't feel good about the defense, but I don't feel terrible about the defense because like it's a push-pull. Like on one hand, I want to say, look, the Colts defense has been a problem for 2 years now, actually with Gus Bradley, is whenever the offense has had a turnover, like I'm not saying that you need to get a stop every time or you need to keep them off the board. But we've seen this for 2 years now where when the Colts offense turns the ball over, that other team is scoring a touchdown. Like they're going to score a touchdown. It's not like there's no holding them to 3 and there's no holding them off the board completely. It's like if you have a goalie in hockey who can never stop a fast break goal. Like it's still on the rest of your players for allowing the fast break goal or allowing the fast break to happen. But eventually the goalie needs to stop a fast break, like just
Yeah.
stop one of them. And that's kind of what we saw with the Colts. Like we saw against the Jaguars last week, where ETN scores that touchdown immediately after the turnover, immediately after turnover, next play scores a touchdown. This game, after like the block kick and after the first Myles Garrett fumble, the Browns go right down and score a touchdown. And it's like, if you can hold them to 3 there, or you can keep them off the board entirely, that's the game. Like, again, I'm not saying you need to be perfect because your offense is putting you against your back against the wall for a majority of the game, but like, this is what we pay you for. This is what you're getting paid for. You got to get some stops every now and then. It's great to be good in neutral situations, but sometimes you need to perform with your back against the wall too. We even saw it in the last drive of the game where I don't think they particularly had bad defense on that last drive. Like the Darrell Baker Jr. long completion up the sideline to Elijah Moore was the one great throw that PJ Walker's had all year. Like it was literally just a perfect pass. I don't know what you can, like Baker got into the deep zone. He got good depth on it and made it a tough throw. And it was just a perfect throw by PJ Walker on a day where he had 0 perfect throws outside of that. Right. But like, I don't think they had particularly bad defense, but like at the end of the day, you got to get a stop. Like, yeah. Again, we can go back to the penalties that we did at the top of the show, but like there are multiple times where it's like, okay, this Colts defense can get stops in neutral situations and keep the game close-ish. But when they need a stop, they just have not been getting it done this year. Like they just have not been getting it done. And I think that last drive sums it up perfectly. I think a lot of the drives after turnover sum it up where it's like, just something, like, give me something. Don't let them don't make these turnovers much worse than what they are by letting them score touchdowns on them. Like at least hold them to 3, at least keep them off the board one time, so it doesn't kill the team as much, because now you're getting these turnovers where it's like, okay, Gardner, you can't be turning the ball over there, but this is why, because they're scoring a touchdown right afterwards. Like you got to keep it contained.
Of course, the fumble recovery in the end zone is like a direct immediate
correlation. That's not the defense.
No, you had mentioned that last drive. One that really stuck out to me, Walker found Donovan Peoples-Jones for 17 yards over the middle of the field with no one around him. That's the kind of breakdowns that really hurt as well, because like that wasn't even competitive. Like that was easy pitch and catch right there. So that one wasn't really as well either. But yeah, you mentioned Walker had no perfect passes, 15 for 32. That's pretty rough going through the air. On third down, the Colts held them to 4 of 16. That's 25%. Like overall, some key areas they did pretty well. Let's look at some particular standouts, because we haven't even really talked about that yet. Obviously, Juju Brents going down was not chill. Kenny Moore had really big day. 1.5 sacks for Kenny Moore, one of the best pass rushing corners in the entire league. 3 tackles for loss. That dude had like 3 or 4 tackles for loss last week too. So like, Kenny's playing nuts. And again, he probably should have had that pick. Really good game from him again. So Julian Blackmon, early in the season, he was kind of getting screwed out of turnovers and takeaways and stuff. Those are finally starting to fall his way. 2 picks in the last 3 weeks. So some good play from Julian Blackmon coming here too.
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out Julian Blackmon before we get off here, because Julian Blackmon was fantastic in this game. I think we've been really hard on the safety play this whole season, and I still don't think it's perfect.
Rodney Thomas got his first pick.
Yeah, he got a pick, but arm punt. I still think there's more room for him to get better. I still think the linebackers need to be better in coverage, but Julian Blackmon these last 2 weeks, I think on film, has just been great. He's still in the run game, still getting washed out a little bit, but in pass coverage, he's all over it. He's making plays. That pick was a really high level play from him, coming across the field like that. He's getting more active in the run game when he's able to slip blocks. So Julian Blackmon, I think the stock is up right now with him, and he was the biggest standout on defense. I think Dio Dangbo had a pretty good game as well.
Yes.
Samson Ebukam has been great all year, and he had another really good game. DeForest Buckner, a centimeter away from ending the game on that PJ Walker crazy throw. Like he hit Walker as he threw it, which made that Walker throw even crazier. Right. But I think there was a standout.
EJ Speed called game. Yeah. Like it was not his fault that didn't go his way. Sack fumble, beautiful. He came out like he knew he had to cause that fumble when he sacked Walker. Like that was a perfect play from Speed. So it doesn't count on the stat sheet, but that was a killer play from him.
Yep. So we'll have more to talk about this week with the defense, particularly at maybe adding a veteran corner. Makes a lot of sense. We'll
Seems
talk
like
about
a
that.
decent idea.
Yeah. But we do appreciate you guys joining us for this post-game show. Every day is we'll be back tomorrow morning to talk all things, or not tomorrow morning, sorry, Tuesday morning. Yeah, Tuesday morning to talk all things Colts. Maybe look at more of the macro stuff, looking at like, hey, is Jonathan Taylor officially back? Hey, is this wide receiver room just better than what we thought? And do they go for a veteran at corner? Because, yeah, they do. They do need to go for a veteran at corner. If you guys don't already, though, make sure you're following us at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll see you guys back here bright and early on Tuesday morning.
We love you.